Hello and welcome to another episode of the Buy to Let Property Podcast. I'm your host Shiv Haria, and today's podcast is the threesome that you've been waiting for. In this special episode, we're going to be diving into the trifecta of success: health, wealth and mindset. We're here to explore how these pillars are interconnected and essential for living a fulfilling and successful life. I'm thrilled to be joined by my two incredible guests who are experts in their respective fields. First, we have Akash, a friend and a renowned personal trainer and owner of RNT Fitness, who helps his clients achieve their fitness goals through tailored fitness and nutrition programs. Welcome, Akash. Next, we have Dipesh, the host of the Mindful Creator podcast. Through his podcast, he's on a mission to transform the way people think about life, overcoming mental barriers and achieve their full potential. It's great to have you here, Dipesh. And for those of you who don't already know, I'm Shiv Haria, property investor and MD of Lifestyle Property People, where we help people invest their money into property to create financial freedom and security. In today's episode, we're going to unpack how each of these areas, health, wealth, and mindset, play a crucial role in our overall success. We'll share actionable advice, personal stories, and expert insights that you can apply to your own life. Whether you're looking to improve your physical health, cultivate a stronger mindset, or achieve financial security, this is going to be the podcast that you've been waiting for. Let's get started. Right, guys, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, perfect. Dipesh, Akash, how was your journey over here today?
Very easy.
Easy. Guys, I was talking to the team earlier today and we were talking about, health, wealth and mindset and how they are the trifecta of success. Tell me more about what you understand by the trifecta of success in this. Akash, let's go for you first.
Well, I think each one of them feeds into the other, so they kind of like serve one another. Like if you're not healthy, you're not gonna maximize your potential with your wealth or your career, and if that's not going well, it's probably going to impact your mood, impact your mindset, and vice versa as well. If you're not thinking positively with gratitude, optimistically about your business, that's not going to work. And then of course the body is a representation of the mind, and the physical is also the vehicle to help the mind. So it's like they're all interconnected, and I think you can't have one without the other if you want to feel truly fulfilled. And
I know that is your mantra, your strapline, the physical is the vehicle. Can you just tell us a bit more about that? Where did that come from?
Yeah, like multiple layers. Like for me, the reason why it first came to me was when I transformed my physical body, I unlocked a level of focus, control and confidence I didn't know was possible. And then as I started helping more and more people, I realized this was what was happening to everyone, right? They transformed their bodies, and yet it was their mindset, it was their career, it was their relationship, it was their relationship with themselves that was fundamentally improving. So, if you master your physical body, I believe you can master anything. And then on a deeper level, you can get deeper with this and get into a more of a spiritual definition of it. Of like, if the physical body is in its best kept condition, the soul is going to travel through the world in a smoother ride.
And we obviously, when you talk about health, are you talking about specifically like physical health, or is that like mental health contained in that?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I think of when I think of health, I think physical health for me is like the foundational pillar. I think I've not met many people who have amazing mental and spiritual health and yet completely neglected their physical health. I think again, you just need all of them. But I think physical health for me has the biggest domino impact on all of them.
And certainly, it sounds like that's been the thing that kicked everything off for you.
Yeah, because I think if you want to master your physical health, you have to change so many habits in your day to day and change so much of your lifestyle. Whereas I think if you're just on a pure mental health journey, you can almost trick yourself into thinking things are improving, but you're not changing fundamental things like how you eat, how are you using food as a crutch, or are you burying your head in alcohol, whatever these things are. Whereas I think if you're focusing on your physical body and you're trying to improve that, you just by default change so many aspects of your life and your identity and your habits and your lifestyle that the domino impact is just goes far beyond what you can imagine.
And of course, nutrition and hydration then changes the chemicals within your body that allow you to sort of do all of these things and have a good mindset.
Yeah, you just feel better, right? Yeah. You feel better.
Yeah,
like you look good, you feel good, you perform good, and that kind of impacts basically what you just said. You look good, you feel good, mindset, and of course you perform well in your business,
brilliant
career,
fantastic,
make more money.
And Dipesh, let's go on to mindset. Mm-hmm. Is in mindset the fundamental pillar for you? Tell us a bit more about how that arrived at your story.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, background about myself. I've actually spent the last 8 years now kind of really deep into the world of personal development, where I was actually not just working in that world from a sales perspective, but then I was actually teaching other people about mindset and consciousness. And there's something that Akash actually just touched on, which is one of my core fundamental beliefs, which I'm really excited about today's conversation, which is how everything is connected on a spiritual, mental, physical, and emotional level. So let's put it this way, everything at some point has to start in your imagination, which is why I believe that mindset is such a pivotal part of what everyone should focus energy and time to foster in a really good way.
You have to believe it before you can
Well,
achieve it.
put it this way, if you can't imagine yourself being healthy, then your habits and what you do on a day-to-day basis won't reflect the fact that you are not seeing it in the first place anyway. So if you can't see it for yourself, what's to say that you're going to be able to achieve it for yourself? The more you're able to see it in your mind that you can have peak physical condition or a certain bank balance or a business or a specific partner, it doesn't just have to be to do with health or money. It could be for anything that you're going for in life. If you can't first see it in your mind, how can you even hope to create it? How would you even know what it's going to look like or feel like when you've created it if you haven't first seen it in your mind? And this goes to everything, because this is essentially the foundation of creation. Because this microphone that I'm talking into right now, the camera that's recording this right now, the TVs that have your company logo on there right now, all these things that we're looking at right now started in someone's imagination. And only through the fact that it was first an idea in someone's mind and then brought into the physical world through persistence, trial and error, etc., do we now have these things that are here with us today. That's why I think mindset is such a pivotal part of everyone's journey, or should be a pivotal part of everyone's journey, because without it, you are kind of aimlessly trying to achieve things without any real direction on where you want to head.
And you mentioned two really important words, which I used to teach this stuff, so hopefully you can give us some definitions. You said personal development and consciousness. Help us understand, what does personal development actually mean to you?
That's a great question. Personal development is, if it's going to be distilled down to its absolute core, it's your ability to try and better yourself in some way. And just for everyone listening, you don't have to go to a course to do this. You don't have to be signed up to a program to do this. You can do this by simply picking up a book. You can do this by listening to this podcast. You can do this by going to the gym. It's about bettering yourself in some way to make yourself better. Not because you're already not good enough or anything like that. It's just because you believe that there is a better version of yourself to be created, because the only constant in life is change. And if that's true, then we're all going to change. You might as well change and evolve into something better than what you are today.
And does that mean that you can infinitely be better? Is there a stopping point at any point?
Why would we choose to limit ourselves with this idea that there is a point that we can't surpass? That would be my response to that question. Because if we believe that we can just keep going, then we can just keep going. So,
and also that's making that growth tangible.
Exactly.
Scoreable metric, when most growth isn't.
Exactly.
I will come back to the consciousness question in a second, but now that you've spoken as well, Akash, I wanted to ask about, we're saying about trying to make ourselves better. And of course, the word better in itself is, what does that mean? But when we talk about people trying to lose weight, for example, they lose weight, they cut, and then they become, super skinny. But of course, the more you cut, the more you see the little tiniest bits of fat which no one else can see. How do we stop when's enough? How do we stop ourselves from kind of surpassing that, to kind of go, actually, this is no longer good for me, and this is now having a negative impact on me?
Yeah, so if we're talking about weight loss here.
Let's say.
Yeah, weight loss. I mean, weight loss, there is an end goal, right? That you're not trying to lose weight.
What, a certain number of kilograms, for example?
Well, you're not trying to lose weight indefinitely, otherwise there'd be nothing left.
Blow yourself into oblivion.
It'd just be you and bones, right?
Well, you say that, but we say fat loss, for example.
But there is an end point to weight loss. And I think everyone has a peak condition that they can accomplish, and after which it's not healthy.
Okay.
I think that's what you want to aim for. And then, but the reality is, things that we've done in the past, you've done a photo shoot, for example, that photo shoot condition is not sustainable. It's about hitting something like that to see how far you can push yourself mentally, physically, how you can master your lifestyle, and then settle into a sweet spot, which is not where you were, which is a sustainable way where you can have your cake and eat it and enjoy your life with a healthy high performing body.
And I think actually this is a really important point in the RNT circuit, because I talk to a lot of people at RNT.
Yeah.
I've done RNT, started in 2017, did that for a while, now back on the plan again. And one of the things that people say to me constantly, because I love what it did for me. I love that it gave me the ability to be confident in my own skin. That was ultimately, that wasn't even the goal. The goal was to get a six pack, but that's what it gave me. But people always say to me that, you cut and cut and cut, and then people look, gaunt and unhealthy. And there is a part of that, which is people that can't get there themselves want to be like, oh, well, it's obviously unhealthy because I can't get there. But there's also another part of that, like you've just said, and I think this is really important for an RNT perspective, to realize that that physical condition where you are, let's call it your peak state, where you're taking your photo shoot, that's not where you're supposed to be. Yeah. That's there to take the photo shoot, and you're not supposed to be there. Can you talk a bit more around that?
Yeah, so the reason why I think it's so beneficial to push yourself to the extreme is because you can really push yourself to the extreme of what you're capable of, and getting there is something most people simply can't. So if you can push yourself to that limit, you're just testing yourself in mental and emotional ways that you'd never probably have done in your life. You've never exerted that level of discipline. You've never sat with hunger in your life. Like how many people have actually felt hunger longer than 20 minutes before they eat a snack? Never, right? It's the first time you experience hunger, and you have to control that urge, and you learn so much about yourself because you're used to squashing that hunger by a distraction, whether it's food, whether it's alcohol, whether it's picking up the remote or watching something or whatever it is. Whereas now you got to sit with it and you can't do anything about it. And that's such an amazing personal development tool. And that's why there's so much growth in pushing yourself to the extreme, and then being able to, from that point, control yourself to find a sustainable solution.
Not bouncing back.
Bounce back to the beginning, because then you've not really learnt much about yourself. You've exerted some discipline, but you've not made the real changes. And that's why I say getting in shape is simply controlling your calories and moving more for a long enough period of time. Staying in shape is rewiring your behavior, mindset, and identity to become a new person who can live a healthy, productive lifestyle year round without effort.
Yeah.
I think there's something else to add on to what Akash just said as well, and to go back to your point about the weight loss goal. Yeah. What you might start off with as a goal for weight loss will change once you get to a certain weight. Like, let's just say you're at, I'll use myself as an example, right? I used to be 103 kilos. The lightest I've been was 71. That was when I was PTing and testing myself by doing obstacle course races, all that kind of stuff. And over the last couple of years, I've packed on another 10. So I know that my goal is going back down to 71, right? But once I get back to 71, my goal isn't then going to be get down to 61 because that's not where I know I'm at my peak. So going back to the point of everything is constantly changing, our goals will also constantly change. So once you get to a certain level, the goal might be to maintain that weight. The goal might be to pack on more muscle. The goal will then shift and change as a result of our own internal evolution and as a result of the journey that we go on and who we become as a result of that journey.
And also, like, personal growth, you mentioned, like, where does it stop? Like, if I just take my own example, like, I've done 10 years of bodybuilding, pushing myself to the extreme physically in that perspective. Then I got to the point where I was like, I feel like I don't have much more growth there. So then I started exploring Muay Thai and running, and now I use that to see how far I can grow and push myself. And it's just a different way. And I'm sure in 10 years time there might be something else. And I think it's just that constant evolution of there's always another area you can improve on, and that's what allows to keep the self-development journey going. Do
you think that, let's say you had not moved into Muay Thai and running and that, and you had stayed in the bodybuilding space or the fitness space, do you think that you could have infinitely continued to grow in that? Because there is this kind of like compound interest that you get from doing the same thing over and over again, and you go deeper and deeper. And I know when we used to talk about going that deeper into that.
I mean, I still do, train, but I put that on, for me, it's put on maintenance, because for me the risk reward isn't worth it. Like going deeper and deeper, for me, the injury risk was just getting too high.
And the 80-20, I suppose, now you're at the point where you're like, it takes me 80% of the effort to get the last 20% of the gain. Not physically, but I'm saying mentally or what you're going to learn from it. Whereas you're starting a new thing, you're obviously going to get 80% of the gain with only 20% of the effort.
Exactly, yeah. And then I'm just learning to push myself deeper and deeper into that sort of void state that we talk about.
Yeah.
Where, it's just nothing else matters. You're just completely in the zone. And how it is with running. Running's a great example of like, most of the time you're running, you just got that demon in the shoulder saying you slow down and stop. Right? That's what half of it is, isn't it? Yeah. It's just the battle of running is just telling that person to stop. Yeah. And similar with Muay Thai, the battle is like you're sparring with someone, you're scared of getting hit, you don't want to back off, and you've just got to you got to grow into the idea of staying still, taking the hits, and facing your fears.
Amazing. And Dipesh, help me understand one thing. So we talk about this idea of a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. And I remember really the exact time of year that someone told me you have a fixed mindset. And my initial reaction was this, like, what do you mean I got a fixed mindset? The definition of fixed mindset is someone tells you it and you go, I get defensive over it. And that was really the best day of my life, because that was the day when I realized that there is this thing called a growth mindset. And I started to then grow into that. How do you think people transition? First of all, how do they identify whether they've got a fixed mindset or a growth mindset? And secondly, then how do they transition into kind of like doing more growth orientated stuff? What's the benefit of that?
So with a fixed mindset, the best way that the thing is, we're talking about this because we've been on this journey for a while. So we can identify with maybe a previous version of ourselves that had a fixed mindset, and we know what a growth mindset feels like. In all truth, if you'd asked me the same question back in 2014, I would have probably been one of those guys going, what the hell is a fixed mindset?
Yeah, totally.
Right? Because I hadn't even started my journey on personal development yet. Officially, I didn't really enjoy reading as much, unless it was fiction back then. So for the person listening to this who's curious about fixed versus growth mindset, you can maybe tell that you're in a fixed mindset stage of your life if you're doing the same thing over and over again daily and your results aren't really changing. Okay? That's probably the first thing to look out for. So you might be trying other things, but nothing in your external environment is really changing. The second thing is that you're not really looking at where you could be. So someone who's adopted a growth mindset is often looking at what potential they have, whether it's a 1 month in the future version of themselves or a 10-year in the future version of themselves. They're looking at what that person could look like. And this again goes back to what I said at the beginning, which is what's happening in their imagination. What are the things that they are trying to envisage for themselves that they can see as a better version for themselves? That's typically how I describe the difference of someone who's maybe at the very early stages of kind of breaking out of that fixed mindset and dipping their toe into getting into a growth mindset.
The reason I asked that question is because, let's say, for example, we talk about trying to do a body transformation or trying to invest in property, whatever it might be. I feel like there has to be an impetus. There has to be something that says, I want to do this now. Especially the fact is, regardless of what they do, it's going to cost them some money, some discomfort, some time, something. So there's got to be something that makes them start.
Yeah, trigger.
Yeah, and you've just said it perfectly. So the main reason that someone could be aware of the fact that they're in a growth mindset is that they're on a day-to-day basis feeling incredibly uncomfortable. That is the key, because everyone talks about comfort zones, right?
Yeah.
And the one sentence I tell everyone who's debating on whether they should do that next thing, whether that's starting a fitness program, whether that's investing in a property, whether that's going on the journey of trying to evolve their own spirituality through whatever means. If it's something that makes you uncomfortable, if it's something that makes you wince or maybe even cause a little bit of internal doubt, that is most likely your clue that you're on the right track for the thing that you're about to consider doing, because you don't feel comfortable about it. If you don't feel comfortable about it, guess what? That's where growth happens.
Growing.
Yeah. As you're growing up, when you're young, you have growing pains. When you work out, you definitely have growing pains, right? Go and bench. If you're comfortable benching 100 kilos and you can do 4 sets of 10 and you finish all 4 sets of 10, that's comfort. If you know that your 5th set is going to hurt, if you know that that 5th set and the 5th rep is where you're going to really struggle and you're going to need someone to potentially spot you or help you get that 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th rep in, that's discomfort. But that's the only part of the workout where you'll experience growth.
The reason I say that is because, let's say, for example, people go to the gym. There are two types of people that go to the gym. The people that go to the gym and they press something, they bench something, they pull something, whatever, and they come back and they go, oh, it hurts. And they go, I don't want it to hurt. And then there's the other people that go to the gym and they come back and it hurts and they go, it hurts. I like the fact that it hurts because when it hurts, I know I'm growing. And it's the same with mindset. It's like when I feel uncomfortable, that's when I know I'm growing.
We're just a masochist.
Yeah,
Wow, yeah, all that.
yeah. Shiv's personal situations on
I like
display.
pain.
So I think that it applies to both sides, definitely. And there's a point in your journey, and let me know if you've experienced the same thing, where at the beginning it's extremely uncomfortable, it's extremely painful, and you hate the pain.
Yeah.
And then there's a day, it's like 3-4 months into consistently doing the same thing, where you feel the pain, you feel the pain, but there's something about it that you go, oh, I liked it. And it's that point where you transition from, I don't want to do this anymore, to, I want to feel more of this because you know it's leading to something.
Yeah, yeah.
Would you agree?
100%.
Akash, one thing I wanted to, for those who don't know, I recently restarted my journey with RNT Fitness, and I've been running for the last 2 years, so I've lost a lot of the muscle mass that I used to have, and I had to kind of get back into going to the gym and all of that kind of stuff. And exactly what you said, I went to the gym for the first time, and Akash knows, because I sent him the update. First week, I managed to hit kind of like 1.5 of the sessions that I was supposed to hit. The next week, I was like 2 and maybe a half. The third week, and it started to grow on me. And the first couple of weeks was just like, oh, I just don't want to do this. You know, why am I doing this? And all this kind of stuff. By the time I got to the 4th week, I started to, it wasn't even me that started to see stuff. Somebody said to me, oh, your arms look a bit bigger.
I was going to say, to be honest, your arms are looking pretty.
That was the
veins popping.
Stop looking at that. It's hot in here, isn't it? But that was the day when you go, oh, it's worth it. And I think that this is very much like I don't know, is it called the hero's journey, where I talk about in traveling terms, when people go traveling. When people go traveling, I always tell people go traveling for more than a month, because the first 2 weeks of your travels are holiday, and the last 2 weeks you're looking forward to coming back. So if you just do 4 weeks, then you holiday, looking forward to come back, nothing happens. If you go for 6 weeks, what happens is your first 2 weeks are holiday, and then usually around the end of week 2 or the beginning of week 3, something goes wrong. It could be something small, but for you, it's something massive. Something goes wrong. You lose your passport, or, you know, you fall over and you hurt yourself. You get ill, get injured, whatever it might be. You miss your train, and you start to doubt yourself, and you go, oh, and you get to this position where you realize, like, I feel sad. I feel crap. I don't know what to do here. And then you have 2 choices. I can either stand and fight, or I can lay down and die. And for most people, what they then choose at that moment, especially if you're traveling by yourself, is you go, I'm going to do this. I'm going to fix this situation. I'm going to resolve this. And I remember this very clearly for myself when I went traveling. After about week 3 or whatever it was, I was just feeling really lonely, and I didn't really want to do anything. I didn't want to see anyone. And I felt really sad, and I didn't know what to do about it. And then I realized, I need to fix this. And my favorite quote of all time, and I'll ask you guys at the end of this podcast, so get your thinking caps on. My favorite quote of all time is, life is 100% your responsibility. No one is coming to save you. Plan accordingly. And I love that, because it's saying you have the power within you to change your entire life. And coming back to our conversation about fixed mindset, growth mindset, this is exactly the point. I think the definition between one and the other is, fixed mindset is, I am where I am, and this is how it is. And the growth mindset says, I have the power to create the life that I want to create, to make whatever it is that I want. If I want a 6-pack, I can get a 6-pack. If I want to be a millionaire, I can be a millionaire. If I want to go in, you know, whatever it is, I can do it. And the classic example, and Akash, I don't know if you'll agree with me, I watched the documentary on Arnold Schwarzenegger over and over again, because I just don't understand this guy. This guy started off as, you know, an army guy, went into bodybuilding, then became like a movie actor, then became a governor or whatever. And he's just doing things because he feels like he can do them and he wants to do them. Who else does this? And I think that's really the definition of growth mindset: doing things because you want to and you know you can.
Absolutely. I mean, I'll give you something practical that we can actually try once we finished here as well,
Yeah.
right? Because I do this in a sales context, okay? So sales is probably one of the most ruthless industries that you can be in, because you're uncomfortable 24/7.
Yeah.
Because you don't know if that person's going to say yes to you or not, right? And 99% of that time, that person's going to say no, or have every excuse as to why they're going to say no. So you definitely feel your discomfort in that. So one of the things that you have to get used to is that discomfort. So one of the things that I do with anyone that I train in sales is I get them, and you might have heard about this, where someone says, go and ask for 10% off somewhere. So
Yeah.
when you go and place an order at a coffee shop or a restaurant or wherever, ask them for 10% off. I take it a step further. I don't ask for 10% off. I say,
free.
can I have it for free?
Yeah.
Absolutely, right? And most of the time, if you say that to someone, you see the internal reaction visibly make itself available for you to witness.
Your internal reaction or
Theirs.
Theirs,
So,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
if I say to
Of
you,
course, yeah.
go and ask for something for free, that person's mortified. They go, what the hell do you mean?
Yeah.
Who am I going to ask for what
Shiv
for
would be
free?
pretty good at that, I reckon.
So
Love it, mate.
it's one of the best things, because what it allows you to do, and if you do this, and if you are listening to this and you want to learn how to get more of what you're asking for, go and ask for your next shopping at Tesco's for free.
And what's been your craziest experience with that?
What have I got for free? I asked for, this has been my best one. I asked someone for a free coffee when I went to the coffee shop when I was running an event. And the girl at the counter just looked at me and she was like, no. And in that moment, and this is the key of this, you got to listen to how your internal thoughts are talking to you. Because your internal thoughts are going, you look like an idiot.
What are you doing? You're stupid.
What are you doing?
How
You're
could you
stupid.
possibly...
The person behind you is listening to you.
Yes.
Are you not embarrassed? All these things are going through your head. The goal is to witness what's going on in your head, but not react to them. That's the goal. Right?
Do you think that we can get to a place where our mind doesn't do that? Where our mind goes, this is a game?
No. Because we all have thoughts and feelings.
Okay.
And we all have conditioning. I think we can condition ourselves not to react to them better, but the more you do this, and by the way, I've been doing this for 8 years.
Yeah.
I still get the same reactions.
Okay, yeah.
Right? But I have more awareness of what those reactions are going to be, so I'm more used to them. So I've become more comfortable with
The discomfort.
being uncomfortable, right?
Absolutely amazing.
So the best thing I've got was holding that tension of going, I've just asked, she's blankly said no and disappeared to go and make my coffee. And she came back and I was like, I would really love it for free though. And inside I'm like, oh my God, you idiot. Like, what are you doing? There's people listening to you.
Yeah.
This is embarrassing, etc. Not only did she give me that coffee for free, but I got 19 extra free coffee vouchers from her.
What?
And she was like, here you go for next time. Maybe because she was trying to avoid her own embarrassment of having to deal with that interaction.
Wow.
I don't know.
Akash, can I just say you, this is how he makes sales. He makes the other person feel uncomfortable, embarrassed, to the point where they're like, okay, take my money, please.
Just to be clear, that's not how it makes it.
Yeah.
But no, it's one of the most incredible exercises that you could ever do to not just enhance your ability to make sales. That's definitely a given. But the next time you're asking your partner for something and you might feel embarrassed about it. And that could be like you wanting to suggest where you want to go for dinner instead of maybe choosing something that they want to do because you know that might make them happier, but you want to go somewhere else. Like, stupid example, but an example of where you might doubt yourself.
Yeah.
It's about being able to ask, noticing that you feel uncomfortable and being okay with it.
And maybe the way to do that is to just have no expectation above the response. It's like, I'm here just to ask. They're up to them whether they give it to me, but I'm here to ask.
Exactly. And just for everyone listening, if you do go and ask for a free coffee as an example, they don't have to say yes. So if they say no, don't just stand there and like hold them up and say, give me a free coffee, move on, try again.
But we all know, Dipesh, if you don't ask, you don't get. We've all been taught that if you don't ask, you don't get. And I think one of the things that I was having this conversation just this afternoon with one of the team members that we have, and I was saying, you know, what we're going to do here, and they said we can't do anything. And I said, okay, well, actually, it was about achieving Google reviews. So we're trying to get to road to 100 at the moment, trying to get to 100 Google reviews, and there's a few left to go. And I said, how can we get there? Or when can we? Oh, she's like, oh, it's gonna be quite difficult. I said, when can we get there by? Oh, we can get there by September. No, by November, I think. I said, how can we get there by September? Well, I'm not sure. I said, no, I didn't ask you whether you're sure or not. I said, how can we get there by September? The question is, how can we do it? And we basically wrote out a list of all the people that are completing soon, how are we going to do it, which people, we wrote the names out, and now you see, Dipesh, on our full team group, it's like, oh, we're now road to 100, 86 down, 14 to go, 87 down, 13 to go. And we're just counting them down, and we have a plan, and I guarantee you, without fail, we're going to get to 100 by September, because we now have a plan. And I think the key is, talking about changing your mindset is about, rather than saying, can I have this, can I not have this, it's saying, how can I have this? And that's one of the things I learned from Robert Kiyosaki's book, How Can I Have This? Yeah, really powerful. Guys, and then moving on to the wealth side of things, how do you think, Dipesh, that mindset plays a part in wealth creation?
I could talk about this for days. So I'll give you my own personal example. And this goes back to what can you see for yourself in your imagination about what you are even worthy of receiving. Okay. So pre my personal development days, before I got into my own version of a growth mindset, etc., I typically lived in my overdraft. So I had my overdraft from back when I was in uni, and I would max out my overdraft every single time. Every time I got even back in student loan days. So my student loan would come in, it would cover my overdraft, and then I would spend in my overdraft.
Yeah.
Exactly, straight away. And then if it wasn't the overdraft, it was when I started working. I used to work at Royal Bank of Scotland, and I used to do sales for them. Because I was working for the bank, I got the option to take out a credit card, and I was like, oh, great, I can now use a credit card.
Amazing.
Mate, it's a really quick way to spend money you don't have.
Yeah.
So I was always living in that space. And it was only until I started really understanding that I could have more for myself, because otherwise for me, that was normal, right? It was only until I started understanding that I could have more for myself that since 2016, I've actually, touch wood, luckily never had to be back into an overdraft. Because I could see the first thing of me envisaging money for myself was believing that I could have 6K in a month. That was it.
Which, by the way, sorry, for people listening to this, that's crazy. This is a crazy amount of money. And, but, you know.
For me back then, it was monumental.
Yeah.
Like, absolutely that. It is, for me back then, it was, if I was earning a couple of grand in a month and it was going immediately, that was my normal.
Yeah.
So to have 6K and be in the plus and not have my overdraft and not have a credit card bill to pay, that was insane. It was like, I knew I was thinking about it. At the same time, I was like, is this really going to happen?
But what you're actually saying is your identity had to change, isn't it? Because you're saying your identity was someone that lived in their overdraft, etc. And then you somehow made this leap to, you could see it in your mind's eye that I want to make 6K. And then you presumably went through a transition of changing your identity to someone that now, you know, at least makes 6K or whatever it might be.
And this is where the law of attraction and manifestation and just being aware of the opportunities that present themselves become really apparent. Because after I had the idea that, okay, yes, I could get 6K, I actually got given a couple of different opportunities for sales roles.
Yeah.
And it was very different to what I'd been doing previously. And it was about the time that I was doing personal training back then as well. And I was charging, 35, 50 quid an hour?
Yeah.
And then I got to £75. I thought I was an absolute god status
At
that
that time,
level.
I would think that you were absolutely God. 75 quid.
Back
It's a lot of
then.
his self-worth, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, yeah.
And it was amazing to see that I actually then managed to get a 2.5 grand sale
Yeah.
because I sold a package to someone.
Amazing.
And I was like, whoa. And that happened 4.5 months after I started thinking about it.
Okay, yeah.
So
It's
it
quite
was,
quick then.
yeah, it was to see how fast those opportunities presented themselves, because the types of clients that I was attracting became more of the types of clients that were wanting to work
yes,
with me
yes,
for
yes.
longer, looking for a certain result rather than the one-off training sessions. So all those things happen as a result of first in my mind going, how do I get 6K?
I think one of the sayings that I always have when we're working with clients is you can either have a Nissan or you can have an Audi. We're an Audi. They're both cars. They both have 4 doors. They both get you from A to B. But if you want a Nissan and you're in the Audi showroom, you're just in the wrong showroom. I think that's what you're saying about finding the right clients that resonate with your message, that resonate with what you want to achieve. And then also, I suppose what you're saying is, and Akash, I know we talked about this recently as well, selling by value rather than selling by cost. Like, who cares what the cost is? It's like, how much value am I going to get from this? I'm going to get so much value from this. If I'm going to get, let's say for the sake of argument, £1,000 worth of value, is it okay if you charge me 400? Of course it is. I'm going to get £1,000 worth of value on this. If it's okay if you charge me 1,000, of course, because I'm going to get £1,000 worth of value on this.
100%. And 2 other caveats to this. Number one, and you touched on it just a second ago, do you believe that you are even worth
Yes.
that much money?
Yes, yeah.
Right? That's number one. But then I don't want everyone listening to this to suddenly go, I believe I'm worth X amount and I'm not going to settle for anything less, right? Because you have to go through the journey.
Yeah.
You have to take it step by step. It never just jumps from being in minus 2,300 to plus 6K. It's not instantaneous. So that journey was minus 2,300, then 0, then 300 plus, £300 in the plus, then 1,500, then 6K. So yes, you've got to have self-worth, but then we talk about this a lot in just personal development overall, which is the lag effect. And you'll know this definitely from the health and fitness world. you start training today, you will not see a result today. It's impossible.
Yeah.
Train consistently for 3 months, 4 months, 5 months. You don't know what day you're going to see it, but 12 weeks in, the t-shirt's going to feel better. The jeans are going to be a little bit looser. You're going to look in the mirror and go, oh my God, I can see a jawline, whatever it might be. That's the lag effect. You had to do it consistently over time to then earn a small version of the result, which will get noticed further down the line. The same thing applies to money. You start with your imagination today, I'm going to be a millionaire. Great. Now you're going to go through the journey of the...
do the work as well.
Yeah, exactly. Consistently showing up to whether it's investing consistently, whether it's working out consistently, you're going to do it consistently. And then there's going to be a day where you get a dividend or you get a rental payment or you get like your muscles pop a little bit more.
I think with investing, one of the things that people always say is, Shiv, you know, with these properties that we do in Leeds and Sheffield, you're going to make £3,000, £4,000 a year, £5,000 a year. Like, it's not a huge amount of money. If you think about it on a monthly basis, it's like £250, £400 a month. But what they don't understand is that consistency of saying, I'm just going to buy one every year. Now, just imagine this. People want to build a portfolio, but if you just bought one a year, at the end of year 10, you'd have 10 properties. End of year 20, you'd have 20 properties. This is without any compounding, without any refinancing, buying more, etc. This is just buying one a year, nice and steady, nice and stable. And if we say each one costs 60 grand or whatever it might be, like the point is that you could go away and do that and build an enormous portfolio for yourself and create that financial security and financial freedom for yourself if you wanted to. It just requires consistency. And I think, is it Warren Buffett who says, the problem is that nobody wants to get rich slow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to get there today. Everyone wants to get there right now. And I think part of that is that, you know, platforms like Instagram that popularize this idea of like, I have this right now, this instant gratification. And maybe we just need to talk a bit more about that delayed gratification. And I presume that in both of your journeys, mine as well, everyone sees that overnight success, but you and I all know that it took us 10 years to get here. It took us a time to get here.
Yeah, I mean, even like outside of health and fitness, just recording something like this, like a podcast, the compounding interest on long form, really good quality content. Now, this is something that is going to be watched for years. You're putting the effort in now to invest in the future, and who knows? In 3 years' time, someone might watch this video and think, "Oh, I might call this Shiv guy up and buy a rental property from Lifestyle Property People."
Yeah,
and it's playing that long game effect, and knowing that all these things just compound.
Yeah, totally.
The compound effect happens obviously in property, because if you buy a property consistently every year, yes, you're going to have 10 by the end of year 10. And then because of capital growth in the market changing over time, you'll have the ability to refinance, pull out additional equity and add to your 10 without even having to do anything
Probably
extra.
another 10, Dipesh.
Correct. The issue is, and this is exactly what Warren Buffett's quote is all about, people don't want to get rich slow.
Yeah.
Right? People don't want to get fit slow, which is why 6-minute abs on social media sells so easily, right? Because it's promising a result that someone wants almost instantaneously. Now, you know for a fact, and you've been through the journey, I've been through the journey, it's impossible. It's never going to happen.
So now I've paid. Is the result going to happen? And they laugh, right? They all laugh, and secretly they're probably hoping, oh, you know, if only it did.
That's it.
Remember those things that you used to get where you put those sticky pads on your abs and boom, you get abs, as if, right? You like
well, the one that electrocutes your muscles. Yeah, the one that sends impulses through. I saw someone doing a workout with one of those recently as well, which might have an effect of some kind which might work you out harder, but you still got to do the workout.
Yeah.
You still, like, you can't avoid doing the workout unless you don't want to be fit. Fine.
Akash, you obviously work a lot with entrepreneurs as well as business owners.
Yeah.
Entrepreneurs and business owners, they usually have this kind of growth mindset associated with them. Why do you think that health, because I know one of your straplines, like I said, is the physical is the vehicle. How does health and getting themselves into shape help them with the rest of their lives, specifically help them with their finances? Because we're talking about entrepreneurs and business owners trying to grow their businesses, trying to make more for themselves.
Yeah, I mean, from a very fundamental aspect, it's you're going to have more energy, right? You're going to have more energy, you're going to be able to think clearer, you're going to have more mental bandwidth. One of the things I think entrepreneurs are guilty of is just going hell for leather in their business and completely throwing their health to the wayside until they have some sort of trigger moment. And we've all probably had some form of that. For me, in 2019, it was quite extreme one. Like I was going through a period of like 3 months of just basically working 16 hours a day, 18 hours a day. And I thought, how little can I get away with my health? You know, how little can I get away with? How little amount of steps can I do? So I was doing 3,000 steps a day, 2 workouts a week, really trying to push the limits.
At least you're doing 3,000. Like, at least you don't do 3,000, mate.
Yeah, I mean, just trying to push the limits of how little can I get away with. And you know, on Valentine's Day, I collapsed.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I collapsed, and it was from just
Is it because
burnout
you
and stress?
Because you? Oh right, I thought you saw her and you're like, wow.
Yeah, no. Oh yeah, it was that as well.
Come on, opportunity.
That's the clip that you'll send her.
Yeah.
Now.
It was burnout and stress.
Yeah.
And you know, I was taken to the hospital. They
wow.
they
Wow,
rehydrated
man.
me. They said I was dehydrated. Really, I was just completely burnt out.
Yeah.
And from then, I realized no matter how busy things get, I have to keep an eye on my physical and mental health, because to perform at your best as an entrepreneur, you have to be firing on all cylinders internally.
And do you see that link specifically? I mean, because you may have interviewed some of your clients. I know you guys do podcasts as well. Do you see that link between a change in fitness, a change in your body,
always.
and
In
like
business.
wealth and wealth?
Yeah, because usually you start developing a new sense of confidence in your skin. And whilst you may have had some external confidence to get some level of business success so far, you never had that deep internal confidence in your own skin. You mentioned it right at the start, right? Having that confidence in your skin. And when you have that, you just do things you never would have probably pushed for or done. You wouldn't have done that deal. You wouldn't have attempted that goal that otherwise, in the past, you'd be like, maybe not. So I think I've seen I've seen a big impact in that. The other thing I've seen a massive impact on is just overall lifestyle and their relationships with other people in their life. Because
Like partners, kids.
yeah, partners, kids, because they've just got more energy, they're better mood.
Yeah.
They're less full of decision fatigue. I think when you've got your workouts planned, you've got your steps planned, your walks, you're eating similar sort of foods, you know, that thing you're not thinking about, you just feel better, you have better bandwidth for the things that really matter in your life.
I think people always think that. I'm sure they think, looking at this right now, they're thinking, how are people doing this? You know, I have such a busy life right now.
Yeah.
Most people are thinking, I go to work at 8 in the morning or 7 in the morning, whatever it might be. I don't get back till 7 or 8 at evening. I've got to look after my kids. I've got to look after my wife, my husband. I've got to look after my parents on the weekend. God forbid I even have a chance to go and spend some time with my friends. How on top of all of that are people finding the time to also sort their body out, to also sort their mindset out, to also invest? How are people doing this, Akash?
Well, a lot of times they just need that insane trigger moment. And
what does that usually look like for
it's
in your
usually
industry?
like for most common for us, they'll see pictures of themselves and think, that's not me.
So they'll be like, for example, they'll be on holiday.
It'd be quite
Someone will have
superficial
taken
one.
a
It'd be quite superficial one. It'd be like they see a picture of themselves at a wedding and be like, is that really me?
Oh gosh,
Or
yeah.
they've gone on holiday and they realize they didn't want to get by the pool.
Yeah.
Or their son or daughter may have come up to them and say, hey, daddy, you're fat.
Yeah.
Happens often. It happens
Yes.
really often. Or daddy, your stomach's wobbly, and they'll smack
Yeah.
his stomach and they're like, oh shit. Or the doctor said you got 5 years to live. I've heard that one a few times.
Yeah.
So it's like when it really slaps you in the face of, I can't actually fit into any of my clothes anymore. Like it's something quite superficial usually, apart from the health one. And then you're like, oh shit, I have to do something about it. Then it's that step of like, the awareness is there. You mentioned, that sense of discomfort. It's just like, I need to do something about it. And you've just got to capitalize on that when it hits, because it's so easy to sort of let that slide by.
Yeah.
If you get stuck in your fear, like fear is the biggest blocker
Fear.
for us. Like fear, lack of limiting beliefs. Can I do this? Is the hardest thing to overcome.
And I think that's why what I love about you guys, Akash, is that you guys post transformation pictures. In fact, I remember telling you this when I did my transformation in 2017. The reason I did my transformation in 2017 is because I saw a guy that looked like me on your social media, and I was like, if he can do it, surely I can do it too.
that's a big part of it.
And I think that's why I think your transformation pictures are amazing, is because, and I've seen so many comments on your pictures where they go, must be photoshopped. You know, that they can't be real. And it's like, no, it is real. I've been through the process myself, and you're absolutely right. Like the sense of confidence that you get. In fact, and going back to the sense of confidence comment, I heard this really great quote. It says, a bird that is sitting on a branch of a tree doesn't ever get scared that the branch is going to break, because it does not have trust in the branch. It has trust in its wings. You have confidence in yourself, not confidence in the external environment
Very well
around you.
remembered that one.
Yeah, I really like that one, because now I feel, and I didn't feel like this for a while, but I feel like I've got my wings. And what I mean by I got my wings, and I think you guys can both attest to this as well, is my ex-business partner used to say this to me. He said, I know that whatever comes at me, I can handle it. whatever comes at me, I can handle it. And I think that's definitely a part of the growth mindset orientated stuff. There's definitely a part of like your habits that create your physical and mental health system. So you know that I can handle it. And of course, for me specifically, it's that I have the finances and the resources, not just the finances, but the resources to be able to handle it. We always get into this conversation of like, well, which one of these is the most important, the starter. And I think for everyone, the starter is different. For me, the starter was finances, because I realized that if I wanted to do a PT program, for example, I need the money to fund it. If I wanted to do a mindset program, I need the money to fund it. And I thought, well, if I just had some money, I could go and do this stuff. And one of the things I was talking to a client about this morning was the difference between income and money. Money is, let's say, 10 grand or 50 grand or whatever it might be, and you use that money and it depreciates. Income is 6 grand a month. 6 grand a month. I use all my 6 grand a month. Next month, 6 grand a month. Use that next month, 6 grand. And I love this idea of this constant recurring passive income that can continue to come. And of course, if you don't use that passive income, you then reinvest it, it then starts to compound. Dipesh, in terms of growth and the mindset stuff, how does compounding play a part in mindset?
I think it plays a part in mindset because you bank experience. Because, for example, I'll use sales as an example of this because it's a very tangible way to kind of measure this. Otherwise, we can get very esoteric and we won't talk about anything tangible. But essentially, you've got to have the mindset that you can make a sale, first of all, right? And that really is the mindset of being comfortable with getting rejected more than anything else. You'll do your first 50 sales calls, sales conversations. You might speak to 5 people. And then of the 5 people you speak to, you might get 1 sale. Mm-hmm. Let's use that. That's a terrible statistic.
That's sharp rate.
It's a terrible sharp rate and a terrible conversion rate. But as an example, right? But you do that the first 3 times. So you've spoken to 150 people, you managed to have 15 conversations, and you got 3 sales, as an example. That's now banked as experience and evidence that you can do it. Right, so when you then have your next 50 sales calls, which will be your 150 to 200 mark, you might get, first of all, you would have learned something, hopefully, from your first 150. So you might now get, instead of 5 people showing up, 10 people showing up. Yeah. And instead of 1 sale in that 50, you get another 2. Yeah. So you get 3 sales in total. That happens because you've gone through the first 150. So you compound your experience and the evidence that you can do it. And then you implement off the back of that experience the different versions of yourself that will be required to make those sales. And then you'll make more. It's the same thing as like what happens with, look at the Fibonacci sequence. The Fibonacci sequence of numbers is the compound effect, right? Because it produces an exponential curve, which is what your clients will see whenever they buy a property. It's what your clients will see when they spend over 12 months being on the fitness journey, because they'll start to see compounding results happening. The numbers go 1, 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, etc., which is the last 2 numbers added together. Yeah. Same thing for the sales call. You do your first one, you'll get rejected. That's a 0. You'll get your next one, you might have a decent conversation, then you'll do it again, then you'll do it again, then you'll do it again, then you'll do it again. But then as you get more and more experience, you start to make more and more sales. And it's the same thing when you look at it from a spiritual perspective. Meditate for the first 5 minutes of your life. Within 30 seconds, you're going to be distracted and you're going to be thinking about dinner. Yeah. Guaranteed, right? Either dinner, some stress at work, or you're thinking about kids, or you're thinking about partner, whatever it might be. Meditate on day 50, and you've done it consistently every day for 5 minutes. You might make it to 3 minutes before thinking about dinner again. And then you get to day 100, and you'll make 5 minutes without a single thought maybe popping in. That's the compound effect.
And Akash, in compound effect from a health perspective, what does that look like?
I'd say you can do less to maintain. You need to do less to be able to maintain what you have.
That's interesting. Tell us more about that.
Well, I think in the beginning, you've got to do so much to get any result, right? You have to change so much of your lifestyle.
And so much time goes into just maintaining this.
Energy, bandwidth of like, I've got to prepare this food. I've got to figure out what I'm doing at the gym. And it takes you so much time and energy, and it becomes your main focus in your life. Yeah. 10 years later, or even over a year later, you don't have to think about these things. Like, I don't think about how am I going to get protein in my meals? What do I need to do when I go in the gym? It's just a lifestyle. Because the compounding effect is, and I need so little now to be able to maintain what I've got, because I've just done it for so long that my body is now just, used to this. It's an identity. It's a way of living. So what it takes to maintain what I have is so little.
I love that because it's basically gaining momentum. So it becomes so normal to you, it becomes day-to-day life, that actually the momentum then just takes over.
Yeah.
So you don't have to think about it as much. You don't have to spend as much energy behind it. It just happens. But you do have to go through that painful period at the beginning to allow the momentum to take over. It's just like an avalanche. It starts off with a little bit of snow coming over. The snowball gets bigger as it makes its way further down the mountain, gets bigger and bigger. And that snowball effect happens where it just all of a sudden takes on a life of its own.
Yeah.
And then it becomes very difficult to stop.
And I think from a wealth perspective in a property, it's very, very similar in the sense that, you know, it takes you the first 8 months just like, of no income. You got to just go through the process of actually going to find the property, purchase it, refurbish it, rent it. Then you start getting some income in and you're like, cool, I've got a little bit of income coming in. But it's only in year 10 when that income has compounded, you've been able to reinvest that income, you've been able to get the growth on that property, you've been able to take that growth out, reinvest that growth as well, equity, I should say. And as a result, now at the end of year 10, you have, let's say, for example, 12 properties that generate you £6,000 a month rather than just having 3 properties that give you £3,000. And then you've got all the growth as well. So I think, you're absolutely right. When we talk about the entrepreneur's journey, or even, I guess, our journeys as well, I don't know about you guys, but I always use this analogy. It's 10 years of nothing, and then all of a sudden things start to happen. It's literally 10 years of like, you're seeing very little progress, tiny progress, tiny progress, tiny progress. And then you get to this part of the curve, the exponential part of the curve, where it starts going, oh, something's happening. And I keep saying to people, we're just there. We're just there where stuff has started happening. And I don't know how you guys feel about that, but it's like, we're just there. Now, we're always going to be just there because things have always just started happening because they keep getting exponential in the journey. Akash, one thing I didn't ask you about earlier, and I think it'll be a good thing to understand is, tell us a bit more about your journey of how you became who you are today. Tell us a bit how, what were the trigger points that made you take the steps that you've taken now?
Like which specific steps? In fitness
What happened in your life that made you who you are?
Yeah, so a couple of big moments would be, the first one was walking into the gym when I was like 16, 17 years old. Like that fundamentally did change my life. Sounds very cliched, but I was always on the path to become a lawyer. I was wanting to follow my father's footsteps, do law. I made all my subjects at school based around law. I did law work experience, the whole shebang. Then my friend dragged me into the gym saying it's going to help you get girls. So I thought, great.
When you were 16, 17-ish?
Yeah. I was like, I was a skinny fat kid with moves and a pot belly, no confidence. And he said, look, the gym's your cure. So I went in there and thinking that was the answer. And, it just changed my life in so many different ways. And I developed a level of focus, control, and confidence I didn't expect. And then the life change.
That took you some time, though?
Yeah, about 12 months. So by the time I turned, like,
I'd
say towards closer to 18, I made the decision of not doing law. And that would probably be the most life-changing thing I've done, is not doing law and choosing sports science instead, and deciding to choose a career in fitness when, back in 2008, 2009, it wasn't as like, there wasn't really a career, to be honest. Like, there was a couple of personal trainers.
PTs,
but that's it. Like, there was So when my parents asked me how...
Dipesh making 75 quid an hour.
Right.
So my parents asked me, like, how are you going to pay the bills? Honestly, I said to them, I have no idea, but I'll make it work. And that was probably the most life-changing thing I did. And then, like...
Sorry, before you go in, what was the thing inside you that made you think, I'm going to make this work?
I still don't know. Like, I still look back and think, you can make these stories up in your head of, like, this is why I did it.
Yeah.
Like, there was one... my cousin... he passed away when he was 19 and I was 15 at the time, 16 at the time. So it was close enough to that. And I often think, was it because he passed away young and I think his life too short? But I don't know if that's something I've sort of created now. In the moment, I have no idea. Like, I still look back and I still remember when I walked down the stairs, told my parents, and I have no idea.
Because there might be some element, the reason I'm bringing that up is because there might be some element of, at that time, you must have had some mindset, growth mindset.
From that transformation I experienced.
Yeah, okay.
My confidence just went through the roof.
Gotcha.
Like, I felt more confident. I was walking around at school in the gym with the vest on. And I was like, never that guy, right?
This guy.
I did have a confidence boost.
Okay.
And there must have been something that had a part to play. And then after that, I'd say, then I went to university, worked as a personal trainer in the city of London. And then the next sort of life-changing moment for me was when I started seeing my colleagues having children. And as a personal trainer, Dipesh, it's 4 in the morning.
Yeah.
You find your first clients at 6, you're home at 10, 6 days a week. Sunday, you're just like sort of recovering, doing your admin, planning for the week, hearing about your cancellations or what was coming up. It's relentless. And I started seeing my colleagues having children, and they weren't seeing them. They were only seeing them on Sunday. And I said, how's it going? just exhausted really. Don't really have much time with them. And that's when the light bulb hit of like, I'm 25, 26. I want to be an active dad in the future, but this could be the reality of my life. And I had an entrepreneurial itch, tried a few side ventures, but never really did anything that took off. And that was when I made the decision to go online, to start RNT Fitness. I'd say that would be the next sort of
And at that time as well, Akash, because when you came into my life, I never even heard about online fitness.
Yeah, it's very new.
I heard about PT. In fact, before you, I had a PT for probably a year, 2 years, something like that, because I had this growth mindset. I wanted to do it. And don't get me wrong, I felt better and I was getting stronger, but I wasn't getting into the shape of my life, as you call it. I wasn't looking. You remember my picture of Zac Efron?
Yeah.
I wasn't looking like Zac Efron. Yeah. I was feeling stronger, but I wasn't like that. How did you conceptualize this option of like online PT?
Well, I wasn't the first person to do it, and to be honest, since university, so since 2010, I'd been helping people online because I had friends around different parts of the country. I was sending them plans. Like it was very informal. People were doing it, but it was just very like on the side. It was never like a thing. Obviously, it's a different world now. Like COVID obviously changed the fitness industry quite significantly, and it forced us to adapt quite a lot because suddenly the market became much busier. So we had to adapt the business, adapt the offering, adapt the value proposition. But I'd say those two points are probably the most like pivotal points of my life that were life changing.
And Dipesh, tell us a bit more about your journey then, because I think what I've heard in Akash's journey is there was this struggle. He went through something himself, let's call it online fitness or fitness itself, which transformed your confidence. And then you were like, "Ooh, hold on a second, I'm going to take this different journey, but now I want to help other people with the same issue that I ultimately had." What's your story, Dipesh? What are the pivotal moments in your life?
How long do we have? First of all, I need to have a side note with you about Zac Efron being your idol. We'll talk about that
every single week. There's a picture of Zac Efron in his update.
Every single week. Topless, although he's changed his face now, so not so much anymore.
It is an interesting one because every time I'm interviewing someone, I'm always looking for like, what was that pivotal moment?
Yeah.
And mine wasn't really born out of this one moment that I know for sure, because mine was more born through rebellion more than anything else, because I had a very challenging circumstance from when I was about 12, 13, all the way through my childhood. I won't share any more about that. It was to do with family, but I haven't told them that I would talk about it openly yet, so I'm not going to just divulge that right now. But essentially, it's a very difficult situation, and that went on for years. So by the time it got to GCSEs, by the time I got to A-levels, and like my dad's a pharmacist, my mum is a dispensing optician. So it was kind of always in the cards for me to either be doctor, dentist, pharmacist, medical profession in some way. And if it wasn't that, it was going to be another profession, lawyer,
finance,
engineer, whatever it might be. Yeah. And my rebellion really kicked in at that stage when I was about 17, 18. And I went the opposite way to what Akash did. So Akash went to the gym. I found my comfort in food. And that's what I would say for the next decade or so, maybe like from 17 till 25. That really took over my life. And I think it was around when I was about 24, 25 that I decided, actually, it was because of Akash, as in ex-business partner Akash, who introduced me to Kung Fu.
Right.
And I was going to Kung Fu as the fat kid in Kung Fu. And the discipline that it instilled in me was probably one of my biggest turnaround points. Because I wasn't even thinking about how can I be better. I wasn't even thinking about like, all I was thinking about was all my friends are in finance or in medicine, so I need to do that to be successful. That was one channel of like thought. And the other side was like, I'm going to Kung Fu, and it was mainly because I liked martial arts movies. So I was like, oh, this looks cool. And that was the reason why I went. What I didn't realize was the journey that took me on for the next couple of years was me dropping a significant amount of weight.
So just give me an example. What year was this? What were we talking about?
This was when I was 20, I think it was when I was around 22, 23.
So what's that?
So
1950.
How long ago was that? I'm 37 now. So about 15 16 years ago.
Yeah. What did you top the scales
at? 103.
Wow, okay.
103. And I'm 5'6" for those listening. So when you've got 103 on 5'6", you can see it very visibly. It's like, it's more round than it is anything else.
So just looking at this, yours is like what, around the 2009 type mark?
Yeah, so it was around the time that everyone was going to uni. To give you an idea of like how much my rebellion kicked in, I actually went to uni for the first time to do electronic engineering.
Yeah.
I dropped out after my first year because I was basically like, screw everyone. I don't need to study. Like, this is just where I'm going to figure it out. I think that was my mindset.
Both of you, I am intrigued by this. I'm just going to figure it out. Like, I didn't have that confidence to go, I'm just going to figure this out. I did eventually, but
Still saying that to myself.
yeah.
I'm still trying to figure it out. And I think that's how you naturally feel throughout this process.
Yeah.
But maybe, listen, it's probably our biggest strength and we don't even realize it. But I think having the ability to just figure it out
Yeah.
and knowing somewhere deep in you that you will is enough sometimes to keep you going at the times that are most uncertain.
Are we born with this though, Dipesh?
No, I
This
think you have
feeling
to-
inside
No,
you?
it comes back to what you said about evidence.
Yeah.
The more you
Right.
stack that, the more you have that proof in your head. I think,
And
you
that's
can
why
body
obviously the
transformation.
body transformation works, because
Photo
you
shoot.
start with just seeing a little bit of muscle, a little bit of fat loss,
You
whatever.
know,
it
you
might-
can push yourself to a photo shoot. You're like, if I can do that, it's like when I
Amazing.
so I did a Muay Thai fight last year, and in the first round, within 30 seconds, I got dropped. So I got picked up and thrown to the ground.
Wow.
And the crowd was going nuts for the other guy.
Yeah.
I was thinking, and all I could see was like the lights in,
Yeah.
in the thing, just bright lights, and all I was like, "There's no way I'm just sitting here." And then I got up and I was like, just on the offense. But it was like a pivotal moment of like, do I just stop now and give up and retreat, or do I just keep going? And it was those little things I can draw on now of like, yeah, I got up and I came back. And
My friend said to me, Akash, this is a great quote, is he said, I didn't come this far to only come this far.
Yeah.
You were in a ring fighting this guy.
Yeah.
You've been
There's
dropped.
thousands of people there.
1,000 people there. You're like, I didn't come this far to
Yeah.
just come this far. I'm going to fight back.
Yeah, and it's these things you draw on, right? It's like, you know, you've done a half marathon under 90 minutes. That's no one does that without a lot of pain,
Yeah.
right? So you can draw on that as like, this is what gets me through.
And then is it all then just mental discipline? Is it you draw on these experiences, you build your mental discipline?
yeah, and then I think the other big thing is actually figuring out what you want. I think that's a really hard one, like figuring out what you actually want, because it's only when you know what you want and it actually sits with you, then you can go really all in. Otherwise, you kind of just skirt around, and yes, you might have this proof and you might have the ability to do it, but you never really do it because it doesn't feel like it's worth doing. And I think that's a hard one.
Do you think, okay, if we go up macro level into what do you want, is what do you want? Like, we're here talking about the threesome, right? We're talking about the trifecta, the health, wealth, mindset, happiness, right? Ultimately, because mindset creates happiness. So health, wealth, mindset is the end goal for everyone. If a macro up is health, wealth, mindset, and then we come down and we go, okay, but what is it actually? But it is ultimately to get these three things, is it? Do you reckon? Because I'm just trying to think about where you are. You're like, okay, cool, I want to get my health sorted. That's what you wanted to start with. And then you're like, cool, well, what do I actually also want? I want growth, which is mindset. And of course, as part of that, that's like, I want wealth that comes with it.
I think it's linked to that. So my core values are like growth, freedom, and physical health.
Yeah.
Like, as long as I'm doing those three things, and like growing in some form area, I feel like I have freedom to do things, but also freedom from like my own mind and like whatever other things you can create for yourself.
Yeah.
And then physical health, I just get so much joy out of it. As long as I'm designing my life out of that, I feel really content.
Nice.
It's when I come away from that,
Yeah.
that things get lost. But then it's also within those, what's the one thing that I really want to dive into, and is it what I'm aligned to?
Yeah. Sorry, Dipesh, let's go back to your story.
Now he was going to say something as
I
well.
was going to say that what you just said about going macro around those three pillars, I actually think it's the other way around. I think, and this might be true for all of us, I'm making an assumption here, but correct me if I'm wrong. So what you've achieved and what you now focus on is not, it might have been an idea of what you wanted, but it's not how you started.
Yeah.
And what you've got now is a result of what you focused on for a longer period of time.
Uh-huh.
So even for me, when I started going into personal development, I didn't go into personal development going, I'm going to one day talk about mindset and consciousness and inspire people about it. But over time, as I've gained more interest in it and understood it to a deeper level for myself, and then had the evidence of other people being taught by me going, oh my God, you made that so simple for me to understand, have I now got to the stage of, yeah, I actually like doing this. And I think that's something that a lot of people listening to this might go, oh, but how do I get that mindset today? You don't get it today. That's the answer. Because you have to build it over time. Because your own mindset will evolve. Your journey in health will evolve. Your end goal for why you're investing will evolve. So
do you think in terms of getting that mindset and building it over time, it's got to be a case of the thing that you need to do, the actual thing that you need to do, is put yourself in places of challenge, because it's just challenge. It's basically it's overcoming challenges that builds that that trust in yourself, that builds those pivotal points for you that you can look back and go, oh, I overcame that, I overcame that, I overcame that, and those stacked together become, oh, well, in that case, I can overcome anything.
I think this is where it goes back to what I was saying around that journey of like, we'll figure it out. I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Because looking back at it now, and I wouldn't have known this back then, but I can look back at it now because I've had the experience of it and I've learned a lot more about myself as well. But going through what I went through as a child, if I can figure myself out through that, then what else can I figure myself out through? It's not even the delusional or like the Instagrammable post where I can figure out anything. There might be certain things that I can't figure out, and I might have to get other people involved to help me figure certain things out. Fine. But if I can make it through that and still be standing, then what else can I make it through? Because I don't really ever feel like, and this is, I think, actually more important to talk about than anything else, I don't ever feel like I've got things down.
Yeah.
Like, you know, we just joked about it. Like, we're still figuring it out. Like, I 100% am still figuring out everything. And I think that if you have the mindset that you're just going to figure it out no matter what, and you're always going to feel like you're figuring it out, then you're not trying to get to this destination that doesn't really exist. Because one of the most common things I've heard from every single person that I've interviewed, yourself included, you're going to be on it soon, and from everyone else that I've spoken to, is no one knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
No one knows. They're all just figuring it out along the way. And after a certain level of experience, then you figure out certain things because you've got evidence. Yeah. But then the next phase of what you're looking for, you're still figuring it out.
I think we all think that everyone else has got it figured out, and we always think that, oh, people are looking at me. But the point is that people are too busy looking at themselves because they know that they haven't got it figured out.
Yeah, and everyone's self-conscious.
Yeah.
It's like, what if I get found out to not know, like, be the person that's known as not knowing where they're going?
Talking about the pivotal points that got us here, to give you a bit more about my story, basically I graduated from university, went and got a grad scheme job. I was like, this is cool. I'm getting paid loads of money. I'm doing lots of good things. And I love my life. But I just remember thinking to myself that this is enough. I want more. And the reason I wanted more, if you go back a decade from that, when I was 13, I moved from... I went to a private school for a couple of years, and then my parents couldn't afford it anymore, so I went to a normal state school, and I hated the state school. Comparatively, there was no discipline. I just got bullied a lot. It was just not a cool place to be. And I remember thinking to myself, why did my parents do this to me? Victim mentality. I was there. Why did my parents do this? I don't understand. Like, why did they not figure themselves out? Why did they not sort their finances out? I really blamed them a lot. And now, obviously, I look in hindsight, and I'm like, that was the best thing that ever happened to me for two reasons. One, I got a view of what the other world looked like all the worlds, not just this one world. And secondly, because I realized this saying of it's all on me. There's only one life. I am in control, and no one else is coming to save me. I've got to plan accordingly. And ever since then, I've always been like, I remember I was 13 years old. I was standing in the playground of my secondary school outside reception. I remember thinking to myself, I'll never be poor in my life. It was just so strong when I was 13. And then I went on to university and all this kind of stuff. But I remember when I stopped working at the company I was working at, Fujitsu, the reason I stopped is I was like, this isn't going to get me to where I want to be. I want to be in this other place where I'm financially secure. So I went traveling because I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I came back from traveling because my brother called me and he says, Mum's had a heart attack, you need to come home. Came home, my mum had a heart attack. And I started to think, if she's not going to work anymore, how are we going to pay the bills? I was living at home at the time. And I was like, how are we going to pay how do people pay the bills if they're not working? And I know lots of people go away, take 3 months holidays and stuff. And I was like, how do they take 3 month holiday if they are not, if they're working? Like, how are they paying the bills? And it arrived me at this conclusion of investments and property and passive income. And that curiosity that got me there, I then partnered with my wife now, then girlfriend, to have a look at how do we get ourselves there? And when I was 25, I bought my first property. We bought our first property, and we bought lots and lots since then. But the point is that it was that pivotal moment of my mum having a heart attack, which at the time would have people, even I thought, I was like, this is tragic. This is really, really bad. And I learned from there that this is a big statement now. There is no good things and bad things. They're just things. They're just events that happen. And how we perceive them makes them good or bad. At that time, I thought this was a bad thing. Now it can be like, oh, that was a pivotal moment to push me to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe in the future it will turn out to be something else. There is no good and bad. And it pushed me to go on this journey that changed my life. Because like you guys, if I hadn't done that, I would have worked in one of those, let's call it the normal jobs, worked probably not even 9 to 5, probably 8 to 7 or whatever, worked really hard, got a career, got lots of money, and probably woken up at some point when I was 40 or 45 with 2 kids and gone, is this what I wanted for my life? But I'm too late at that point. And I always say when you start investing, there's 2 ages that you start investing. When you're basically sub 35 or when you're plus 45. Because in the middle, you have kids. You have kids and you do all the good things and you're just so busy and you just don't have enough resources to do anything. So you either do it when you're young or you do it when you're a little bit older. And if you do it when you're young, you have loads of time for it to compound. And if you do it when you're older, you're doing it for a slightly different reason. You're doing it now usually because you now have kids and you're like, I want to leave a legacy for my children. I want to make sure that they're not in the same position that I'm in, which is I'm 45, I'm middle-aged. And I've just realized, I've just woken up to the fact that I'm not following the life that I actually wanted to. I just fell into this life. And I think waking up to what you really, really want, which is what you're talking about, Akash, your values, understanding your values early on, realizing and trying to figure out constantly, what do I want? Asking that question of yourself and coming up with answers for that, I think is really the key here of trying to move you in the direction that you want to move in rather than the direction that society wants you to move in. What's your take on that?
Hit the nail on the head.
Yeah, absolutely. There's something that from just this conversation seems consistent between the 3 of us, right? Which is, and actually I think for the people that will listen to this and that will appreciate where we're coming from, whether it's looking to increase funds, whether it's looking to increase health, or whether it's looking to develop a better mindset all round, are people that have gone through adversity in some way or form. Have gone through a struggle in some way or form. It doesn't have to be the world's most traumatic struggle. It can be whatever your perceived version of struggle was.
It's struggle for them.
For them,
yeah.
Exactly. Because only by going through that do you then have maybe a want to do something different.
Yes.
Because what caused the struggle and what you then live through for a certain period of time is either going to make you incredibly uncomfortable anyway, so then you're going to want to find a way out of it, or like it doesn't always work for everyone. So some people find that discomfort and then they become comfortable in that original discomfort of, for me, like it was food as a comfort. So then you stay in that for a really long period of time until someone, and this is where I think something like this is so powerful, because you have to have someone there to pull you out.
Yeah.
It's very difficult. Like no one is self-made.
To show you the way.
Yeah, no one is self-made, because you had a journey of where you wanted to go at fitness level. Akash, you helped him.
Yeah.
Right? People, I've spoken to so many of lifestyle clients, have a vision of what they want to achieve for their financial future. Lifestyle is there to help those people. I know hundreds of thousands of people who've gone on the journey of wanting to evolve on a conscious level and just attract more of what they want in their life. I've been there to help them. I've been privileged enough to be in that position to teach them or help them in some way. Going back to the Kung Fu story, I had Akash take me to Kung Fu. Like no one did anything by themselves. It's very rare. There's always going to be someone there. And this goes back to the hero's journey of what you were talking about, right? Because you start off on this journey, in the hero's journey, for those of you who don't know, it's by Joseph Campbell. So definitely go and do some research on this. It's fascinating. But you start off your journey, you're kind of hiding out as this version of who you think you need to be in life in order to be successful. And then you come to this point, like a threshold, where you are at this point where you need to take a step forward into something unknown, something uncomfortable. And what most people don't realize is at that threshold, you meet a guardian. And a guardian is there
To guide you.
not to push you over, but is there to say, this is the place where you take the step. And if you choose to take the step, I'm here to help you. And that's the part which we haven't touched on just yet, which we're now talking about, is everyone has help in some way.
Yeah.
And I think just as a human race, like we're here to help each other in some way. I feel like we're all most fulfilled when we are being of service to someone else.
Yeah.
Which is why, and I'm making an assumption here as well, but it's why you guys do what you do. Because there is a level of fulfillment behind it to go, I've created X, Y, and Z results for myself. Now I can help you do the same.
And actually, Dipesh, also on that exact point, some people are in the position where they're like, I don't want to ask help because I don't want to burden other people.
Yeah.
But exactly what you've said overcomes that, because it says people love serving, people love being of service. And if I can help you, then why would I not do that? Because I will feel good. So you don't have to worry about the fact that you're taking up my time because I'm being able to help you.
This is why the mindset aspect is so important.
Right.
Because, and you touched on limiting beliefs earlier, right? We all have limiting beliefs and they're all attached to certain personality types, right? So you can not feel worthy, you can not feel good enough, you can feel like you're not perfect, you can feel not capable, you can feel like you don't belong. There's so many different versions of this in total. But if those beliefs take over, then you might feel uncomfortable asking for help. But again, it goes back to, if you feel uncomfortable asking for help, the sign of being uncomfortable is your clue that you need to be asking for help. And the help almost always comes with a cost in some way.
Sorry, and this is actually very fascinating. Is the discomfort the sign that you need to change? Is that what it is?
It's the sign that you need to take that step.
You need to take action, yeah.
Yeah, you need to take that step. Because the change is subjective.
Yeah.
Because maybe you don't need to change anything, but you just need someone to guide you in a slightly different direction.
Okay.
Maybe what you're doing already is the right thing, but maybe it's just with the wrong intention. Or maybe not, wrong's probably not the right word either. Maybe it's just with the intention that isn't leading you to your outcome.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's being able to notice the discomfort and then asking for that support if that's what needs to be done in that moment.
Yeah.
And then just taking the first step, because everyone otherwise wants the map of where it's going to end up, but no one has the map because everyone's route is different.
Yeah.
So you have to take the first step, and only after you've taken that first step does the next step become
Appear
apparent.
itself. Yeah. Perfect.
Because everyone's journey is different.
Perfect. And just rounding off now, so talking about being of service, let's just talk a little bit about all three areas and understand a little bit more about, Akash, let's start with you. How do you and your organization, how are you of service to people? What do you do? What do you provide? And then we'll go on to what are the tips that you have as well. So let's just go into what you do and what you provide first.
Yeah, so RNT Fitness, we ultimately give people, we do give people the roadmap to their success. Just on a side note on that, what I found interesting is, I found in health and fitness anyway, I think the blueprint is consistent, but I think the individual journey is unique.
Absolutely.
So it's very predictable, the stages people go through,
Yeah.
but how they go through them is very...
Which is each to their own.
How, as in the time it takes to go through each one? Or
The time will vary, the challenge will vary, what they find difficult will vary, but they're going to go through the same steps.
Same steps, okay, yeah.
At some point.
Yeah.
It just might take someone 5 years, might take someone 1 year.
Yeah.
How they go through that journey. So I think that's quite interesting.
Cool, yeah.
In terms of what we do for people, so we give people, the first thing is we customize everything for them. We give them that individual roadmap to their health success. Then we hold them to account on that roadmap through the journey. We have a 5-phase methodology that we take people through. We hold them to account. And then we just make tweaks and coach them through that methodology.
And which part of that methodology or the program that you have do you think is the most valuable for people? Why did they join?
Yeah, I'd say the biggest reason why people join us is they want to get in shape, but they want to know how to stay in shape.
Yeah.
Now, that's the big one. People usually come to us as like, this is it. Like, I'm done. Final solution.
Because everyone's tried the getting into shape. They may
tried
have
the
even
quick
got
stuff.
into shape, but they've rebounded. And you're saying, join our solution because we will show you how to be in shape for the rest of your life.
Yeah, I've lost 10 kilos, then I gain it back. Lost 20 kilos, gained 15 back. They're fed up of that, and they just like, look, I just need to do it now. I just need to do
Amazing.
it. Or they've hit a breaking point in their health, like they've just never done anything, and they've just for years piled it on, and put all their focus on other areas, usually work, and then suddenly hit by a health scare or a trigger moment where they're like, I need to lose and make a massive change in my life.
Yeah, fantastic. So how you serve ultimately is you provide them with a blueprint, you provide them with the accountability, and you give them everything they need in order for them to change shape for the rest of their life.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Get in shape, stay in shape, unlock the physical transformation to be the vehicle for the rest of their life.
Amazing. Dipesh, what about yourself in terms of like your mindset and mental transformation? How do you serve people?
Well, perfect time for this podcast. So obviously,
Podcast plug.
the podcast plug number one. So obviously, the Mindful Creator podcast as a brand originated for a very selfish reason, which is I love learning from other people, and that was just as a result of being in the personal development world for so long and just seeing how other people do things. So that world can become very narrow, and I just expanded that to like property investors, people in health, people who have had huge business success, and just kind of understanding their stories, their backgrounds. So for anyone who wants to learn, it's available for free because information is freely available everywhere already anyway. What people really pay for is implementation, which is what you do, right? And which is what Lifestyle Property does. And then just last week, I launched something called the Ultimate Edge Academy, which is a group for people to come to where I'm actually going to be hosting like live meditations, teaching aspects of consciousness, understanding, like everyone talks about limiting beliefs, right? But what actually is a limiting belief? What is a belief in its core? And going through the personality types that attach themselves to certain beliefs.
Wow.
So
it's basically the fundamentals of getting that growth mindset.
Correct. Yeah. Exactly. So literally just launched that last week.
Amazing.
This week I'm actually planning like what I'm going to be doing as live sessions. And the goal is to have people in different respective fields. And obviously like you guys are going to be a part of that as well, hopefully. So then people can then have access to you as well in a more holistic and almost like a personable way. So not just watching something, but then like logging into a Zoom session on a Thursday evening for 45 minutes to just do Q&A.
Yeah.
Because that's where people then start to unlock real value, because then they start to see how Akash thinks when it comes to meal prep.
Yeah.
Or they start to see how Shiv thinks when it comes to like, you've got 75K, you've worked really hard for it. How do you get over the mindset of getting rid of it in the hopes that it's going to return you something?
Yeah.
Right? Because that's genuinely a fear that people have.
Yeah. Spending versus investing. Yeah.
Having that space for people to come to and making it free for everyone is why I've done it, because I've been in the personal development
Sorry,
industry.
did I hear that right? You're making it free for everyone?
It's free. It's free.
Heard it here first, guys.
and the reason being is because I've been in personal development for 7-8 years.
Yeah.
I've sold things between 10 and 100 grand.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's just information.
Yeah.
So why not just help people? Because if the world was just focused on helping people a little bit more, you're going to get rewarded in different ways anyway.
And especially the way that you're thinking about it is you're going to attract this wealth and success.
100%.
Or whatever. Yeah.
And goes back to the whole thing. I'll figure out how it's going to work for me in the end.
Yeah.
But right now it's just about helping people.
Amazing.
Well, it's just about passing it on, right?
That's it.
One of the reasons why we do a similar sort of thing where most of our content all our content is for free.
Yeah.
We've got 400 episodes of a podcast, we've got YouTube articles, hundreds of it. And my ethos has always been from the start. Everything when I came up in the industry, I was learning from all these people that are giving away amazing free information. I was like, this is gold. Now I can do the same with everything I've learned. And I think you just want that to be passed on through the generations. And that's how it moves, right?
Exactly that.
Amazing. And then just finally, how does Lifestyle Property People serve people? What we do effectively is we help professionals and business owners to invest in property and create financial security and financial independence for themselves. And I think, just like you were saying, Akash, the physical is the vehicle for you guys. For us, I always find myself thinking to myself, if I could have that income, if I could have that financial stability, for a lot of people, the standard people that have the 2.4 children and that normal life, for them, the thing that's holding them back is they just can't find 2.4 children.
2.4.
2.4.
You guys
two kids
either
and
too young or too old.
That's 2 kids and 1 in the oven.
The average number of kids is 2.4. Come on, average. Akash, you're too young to remember that one. But 2.4 children is the average number of kids. So this is the life that these people live. And the point is, for them, I think that it sounds crazy, but I've spoken to so many people who earn £150,000 a year and they can't find £200 a month, £400 a month, £500 a month to invest in the things that we're talking about right now, because their life is set up, it's occupied, it's already structured. How can I find the extra £400? Or actually, more importantly, they say, I don't have the extra £400. I said, well, how can you find the extra £400? where can you go? Where can you find it? And I think that's the way we need to think about this. But anyway, what we do is we help people with an end-to-end service where we help them to invest in property, create financial security. And the thing that we found is that people don't do this because they don't know how to do it, they don't have the time to do it, and they don't want to make the mistakes. And what we do is we do everything for them. And the only thing that they need to do is they need to sign the paperwork, transfer the money, and confirm that the rent has been paid. So we know that everyone wants to invest in property, but they just don't know how to do it. We can do everything for them end to end. And that's how we then serve our clients. And just like you guys said, we put all the information out for free. I've done endless webinars about how you can do it yourself. And I know that 1 out of 1,000 people are going to watch that webinar and go, cool, let me go do it myself. Fantastic. That's why the information's there. But for the people that think, they watch the webinar and think, I still can't do it, that's where we come in. That's where you guys come in, Akash, with RNT. You say, cool, let me give you the accountability to get you there, to get you to the place that you actually want to get to. Yeah, exactly. Akash, what are the 3 tips that you'd give to your listeners that can help them improve their health?
Okay, so the easiest 3 I'd say would be from tomorrow, from today, add 30 minutes, add a 30-minute walk into your day, or add 4,000 steps to your day, which is about 30 minutes. I think everyone can find sort of 30 minutes. You can either do 30 minutes in the morning, or you can split 3 10-minute walks after each main meal. That'd be the first tip. Second tip would be to try find a 1-hour window that you can sleep in and try and stick to that each night. I think there's so much to be said for having a consistent sleep rhythm and just how you feel the next day. So find a 1-hour window you can commit to. And the third thing would be try 2 weeks of no snacking. So pick 3 to 4 main meals, only eat those main meals, and try avoid snacking in between. And you'll be surprised how much better you feel.
All snacking. Does drinks count as snacking?
What are you drinking?
What are you drinking?
Well, you have like a fruit shoot or something like that.
I would say don't do any unplanned snacking.
Okay.
Yeah, if you plan like this is what I eat in a day, then just count that as your normal thing. But no unplanned snacking where you just I'll just pop into the cupboard and grab a biscuit.
I think the most
That's where most people go wrong.
Yeah, I think that's where most people go wrong. I think where most people can get the most amount of benefit, this from my own experience, is the steps, is the walking.
Yeah.
I just cannot believe how life-changing going for a walk is. Not just because you can go for a walk and get your steps in and burn calories. You're outside in the world and not sitting behind a desk. And we all spend so much time behind a desk that getting outside. I remember Akash used to do unplugged walks as well.
Yeah.
And it's just insane.
One of the best mental health hack, that one.
Yeah.
You feel good because you're walking, but you're also not distracted by consuming yourself by listening to this podcast.
Yeah. Well, that's what we do when we're walking, isn't it? Dipesh, give us a couple of tips then that you have for how people can help them improve their mindset.
Sure. So number 1, write stuff down, especially negative thoughts that are going through or worries that are going through your mind. Not with the need to try and change them, but just to write them down to have the awareness of what's going on. Because it's kind of like going back to what I said about asking for something for free. You're going to have all these thoughts. The goal is to not react to them. We have, 50 to 80,000 thoughts a day, depending on...
Really?
Yeah, that's the average.
I think I might have a few less than that.
Yeah. So 50 to 80,000 thoughts a day. So the idea of trying to stop your thoughts is futile because the average person does not have the ability to disappear into the mountains to meditate for decades on end to try and eliminate thoughts, right? So write them down and just make a log of them. And what you might notice over time is there's less intrusive thoughts because you're making a note of them, you're becoming aware of them, and that is often enough to help eliminate their effect.
Wow.
Because you asked what's the most famous or inspirational quote earlier, right? Mine is a quote from Carl Jung, which is, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. And what that means is until you make your unconscious thoughts conscious, you will act blindly on stuff thinking that's free choice. But what you're doing is reacting to thoughts that are going on in the background.
But that's why these people wake up at 40, 45 and they go, this isn't what I want in life, because they've been directed by this unconscious stream of thoughts for the last 40 years.
So until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate is the most powerful quote I've ever heard.
I love it.
And that's why if you write those thoughts down, you're giving yourself the best opportunity to make what is unconscious conscious, because that is sometimes enough for you to go, I don't need to react to that.
Okay. Yeah.
That would be my number 1 tip.
Yeah.
Number 2, find 5 minutes in your day just to breathe. If you take that time just to breathe, you'll give yourself a chance to reset yourself and be a little bit more mindful, because otherwise, again, this all goes down to reactiveness. If we can take ourselves out of being reactive, you have the ability to be more present. And if
Yeah.
you're more present, then you're going to make better decisions. You're going to be better prepped. That can be done in a 10-minute walk outside. You just go and stand by a tree and just breathe for 5 minutes. Like, that's all you need. Doesn't have to be at home, doesn't have to be in a meditation center. Just find a space where you can breathe.
Okay.
That's it.
Very nice. Perfect. Any more? Good.
I
Two's
can
fine.
I can go for days, but I'll leave it
Those
with
are the first
those.
two. Yeah, perfect. I think my top three tips from a wealth perspective is, number one, I think, like you said about making the unconscious conscious. I think at the moment people earn their money, whatever money's in their bank, they just go out and spend, and they have no idea what they're spending on. If I said to someone, how much do you spend on X or Y, or where does your money go? Very, very few people can say this much goes here, this much goes here, this much goes here. And I think the first thing is becoming conscious of your spending. So what you need to do is say, what's my income, what's my expenses, and track that for a month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, and just see exactly where your money's going. Then the second thing, obviously, from the back of that is to say, what are my goals? Where do I want to get to? Let's try and fix something to say, this is where I want to go. And I think when you're creating goals, one thing that we shouldn't be limited by is where we are right now. We should not say, here's where I am, so here's where I can be in 12 months' time. We should say, here's where I am, here's the end goal of where I want to be. Let's not put a time scale on it, but that's where I want to be. And then the how you can work out along the way. So the second one is then creating your goals. And the third one, I think this is the most powerful one that I've ever heard from investment. When I say investment, I mean investment in property, investment in your health, investment in your mindset, is get started. The best time to invest was 20 years ago, whether it's in your wealth, your mindset, your health. 20 years ago is the best time to invest. The next best time is now. You have to just get started. And like what you said, Dipesh, the first few weeks, months, days, whatever, it's just going to be tough. It's going to be hard. You're not going to want to do it, etc. But it's that compounding over time that really kind of helps things work out. So I think that if you get started now, realize that the workout that you do today is probably not going to be the best workout you're ever going to do, but you got started. I said to a friend the other day, she was struggling to go to the gym, and I said to her, just get to the gym. Get to the gym and have a coffee, then come home. At least you went to the gym, right? Next step, get to the gym, do a 10-minute workout, come home. At least you did a workout. Get to the gym, do a whole workout, but it was only half the effort. At least you did the workout. Getting the consistency of and building that habit of getting to the gym, if that's what you're trying to do, I think is so powerful. And then, of course, eventually you go, cool, I went to the gym for the whole workout and I did an amazing session. And you do that every single time. That compounds. I think likewise with wealth, it's like, get involved and get started. The first deal that you do may not be the best deal that you do. It may not be the best property, but the fact is it's going to add to your portfolio. Nobody wants to buy one property. They want to buy a portfolio of properties over time. And that means that you're going to buy 20, 30, 40, 5, however many you want to buy. You've got to get started now. So those are my top tips, is build a budget to figure out what your goals are and just get started.
Amazing.
Perfect. Guys, thank you so much for joining me on this amazing threesome podcast. I really do believe, and I think the reason why we had this idea to do this is because health, wealth, and mindset, I believe, are the trifecta, the threesome that everyone's been wanting. And that's what leads to, that everyone's been wanting. That's what leads to a great quality life. Do you guys, any final thoughts, any final bits before we get on to how people can contact you? Akash, you didn't give us your favorite quote.
Yeah. I think the one that always comes to mind is the Zig Ziglar one. If you help enough people get what they want, you'll get everything you want.
Yeah.
I really like that one.
Any other thoughts, Dipesh?
Just that anyone listening to this, if you are at that stage where you're looking for support, reach out. Like, Shiv's available, Akash is available, I'm available. Ask your questions. Because if you don't ask, it's going to stay internal and you will never get an answer. So until you take the step and actually ask for that help, what's the point?
The other thing is, like, environment is everything with this. And now that we have access to podcasts like this, if you don't have the physical environment that you potentially hope to have, at least you can curate this in your ears and get, soak up that growth.
Yeah.
That's it.
Perfect. And the final thing that I have to add to that is, from a quote perspective, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. I think so many people, this is obviously a mindset thing, but if people think to themselves, oh, like, I don't think I can do that, guess what? Then you probably can't. If you think I can do that, then you probably can. Like, you just need to do that. Talking of reaching out, then where can people find you, Akash?
Instagram is probably best at Akash Vaghela, or visit the website www.rntfitness.com.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Dipesh, where can people find your podcast and stuff?
Mine's at Dipesh Virji, and I know you're going to link it in the bottom of this anyway, but that's where you'll find the podcast and everything else.
Perfect. And mine is at Shiv_Haria for my Instagram and www.lifestylepropertypeople.co.uk. Guys, thanks so much for joining me on this podcast. It's been fantastic, and we will definitely do a follow-up to this soon. For you guys that are listening, remember the best time to invest in property was 20 years ago. The next best time to invest is now, and let's get started.